Firstly, the gentleman just on my left is Mr. Graham Pewter, the CEO of Catlin Re, and directly in front of me is Andrew Davis, who is the race director, also from Catlin Re. He's done a wonderful job in organising the race. And now behind me is Laurie Orchard, who is, as some of you may know, Bermuda Triathlete of the Year last year. She also won a bronze medal at the Island Games and was second in this event last year to Karen Smith. I'm going to leave him till last. And over here we have Karen Smith, the defending ladies champion, national champion. And as some of you may know, Karen also had a third place finish at the Hawaii World Championships during her career and has represented Bermuda at 2 Commonwealth Games. And over here, Johnny Herring, who is the defending champion on the men's side. Johnny has been selected to represent Bermuda at the Commonwealth Games. And he's also last year's Bermuda Triathlon Association Triathlete of the Year. And then over here, who has flown in specially to race, and we're very pleased to have him here, Tyler Butterfield, professional triathlete, needs no introduction, but just to let you know, he's a former bronze medalist as a junior elite. He's former Pan American champion and 7th place finish at Hawaii Ironman last year. And this year, his big achievement, I think probably that he would say of his career so far, was when he won the Abu Dhabi Triathlon. And in that race, he beat Frederik van Leerde, who is the current Ironman world champion. And so I'll now pass over to Graham, who'd like to say a few words on behalf of Catlin Re.
Thank you. Well, firstly, I'm humbled and embarrassed to be surrounded by all these elite athletes. I have done a sprint triathlon once at Clearwater. I was the second last out of the water, but I didn't do very well. But the triathlon community in Bermuda is very close-knit, very welcoming, and so when Catlin were asked to become involved in this event as title sponsor, we were delighted to step in. We have lots of members of our staff who either support or take part in various triathlons and across other sports as well, so this was a very easy decision for us. And so as title sponsor of the Catlin Triathlon, which incorporates the Bermuda National Olympic Championship, I think I got that right, we're delighted to be part. I know that the numbers are up this year significantly on last year, and I hope that's a trend. Expect that will be a trend that continues, and we look forward to having a long association with this event. Thanks.
Great. My name is Andrew Davis. I'm the race director this year. I have been involved with triathlon for about 15 years now, and coming on board with Catlin recently, it was a very natural fit to sort of join the race committee and sort of help out with the organization of the triathlon. Catlin came on board as a sponsor last year, and in my involvement with the national championship race, there hasn't been a title sponsor. So we were super pleased that Catlin came on last year, and then I find myself obviously very personally involved this year. The race is looking at record numbers this year. We have right now over 100 athletes, upwards of 120 to compete, and we expect that to grow in the closing hours. And then we have many of the, we have 4 athletes here with us, and all 4 of them are actually past winners of the race. And so I was going to open it up now if you guys have any questions about the race in specific, or any questions for the athletes about the race, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll start in. Jonathan, what's it like, obviously, racing in a home event like this, and then seeing someone like Tyler come back and sort of take you on? What does that sort of stir in you?
Well, for a start, Tyler's been a mate of mine since I was about 3 years old, so I'm always stoked to see Tyler around. And we grew up racing together, so anytime I get to see Tyler on the start line is a privilege anyway. But he's turned out to be a pretty decent athlete, so he's doing all right for himself. So it'll be good to have him around. It's always good to have sort of a marker to measure yourself by. So remind yourself that you have a lot of work to do.
And how do you see your chances tomorrow? Sunday, I should say.
I'm kind of coming back from the injury right now. I had a pretty bad back injury, so I was out for a good 5-6 weeks, and so I'm just kind of using Sunday as just sort of like a diagnostic test, sort of figure out what's wrong with me to plot my next training steps. But it's going to be good. It's going to be a good day out. There's going to be some fit guys. There's a few guys on the island have been doing a bunch of 70.3 triathlons, and so they're going to be strong. Sunday will be a breeze for them, so it'll be good.
And Tyler, then how does this kind of fit in with your schedule at the moment? And I guess if we talk about the race in particular, the distance. What does that kind of impact on you?
Yeah, it's actually a really important race. It's the national champs is always important. I haven't flown back in previous years. With Catlin coming on as a major sponsor and triathlon in Bermuda really growing, it's becoming a bigger race. It actually has ITU points. So this race I'm coming back for is my first step in trying to qualify for Rio. And even though people might say, well, that's such a big difference, the Olympics to a Bermuda national champs, but these ITU points you collect. And this race I need to do well in to get points to get me in other races. I have a World Cup in a month, which is the same distance. And I haven't done this distance for, I don't think I did, maybe I did one last year. And then, like John said, we have the Commonwealth Games later this year. And that's why it's also nice for me to come back, as well as to try and get a national title. I think we all would like to get another one. It has the ITU points, but it's also a test for me for the race in 4 weeks and for the Commonwealth Games. I just heard that John was injured, unfortunately, but for someone like him, he probably wants to see, okay, how fit am I? How much have I lost? Have I lost as much as I think? Because that's a big thing between racers, is when you do get injured, is you don't know exactly if you've lost much, and you don't want a false confidence. You want to know. So I'm going to race as hard as I can on Sunday, not just for me for a workout, but also so John can say, hey, I swam with Tyler. And if he beats me, then he'll be like, sweet, Com Games training is going well. I mean, Tucker Murphy as well is on the Commonwealth Games team. And yeah, it's good for these guys to see the level that will be at the Com Games. The Com Games has a big threshold. There's guys that will beat me easily swim, bike, and run. And I'm a little nervous when you come against the gold and bronze medalists from the London Olympics. They'll be at the Com Games. Yeah. But for us, we're part of that team, and that's a team atmosphere that's going to go there. And I think by me coming back to this race, being a national champs, can only help the sport of triathlon in Bermuda. And I'd like to say thank you to Catlin as well for stepping in as a title sponsor, because we need companies to grow the sport. It's not just something that a bunch of athletes can just go around and say we're going to put a race on the weekend. I mean, that's how it started 20 years ago. But nowadays it does take infrastructure, time, race directors like Andrew to support these races. So for me, it's still a big race on the calendar. I never take any race for granted, and never underestimate the competition. Even if John's coming off an injury, I still am going to go over my tires, make sure there's nothing in them, and yeah, it should be a good race on Sunday.
And Karen, how are you looking? What's your thoughts on your going into your title defense?
Well, it's interesting because I typically focus on the longer Ironman distance races, and I guess it's easier to go from Ironman distance down to Olympic than to go from Olympic to Ironman. But that being said, it's a different type of training, and I've really focused on Ironman for most of this beginning of this year, and then I had a nice long break coming off my Ironman at the end of March. So it's just been a couple weeks of getting back into some structure, into some training, and it's just really going to be a test on Sunday to see where I'm at. You just never really know if if I'm going to be going off of base fitness or if I've, got something in the tank there. So I'm going to give it my best on Sunday, and we'll see. It's never ideal. It's hard to compete in both, to be really strong in Ironman and be really quick at the same time. There's sort of a trade-off at some point, and so we'll see where that falls for me.
So what's your thoughts on the rest of the field?
Well, Lori's super strong. She's quick. Mm-hmm. She's dominant on the bike, so usually that's where we see each other quite a bit. She's very close to me. Sometimes I'm behind, sometimes she's ahead. So, but it brings out the best in each other, because if you've got a big lead, then maybe don't push as hard. So it's nice to have someone who's very similar and can push you and make you that much quicker.
Lori, where do you see yourself actually coming out on top on Sunday?
We're going to have to wait and see. Well, I'm hopeful for top first or second, obviously. Yeah, my training has kind of been the opposite of Karen's. I really needed the break after last year. I had a really big season, and I think a successful season that I was really happy with. I needed some downtime, so I took that at the beginning of the year when a lot of people were really building base. And then just at the beginning of the year, I struggled for motivation to really get back into it and say, you know, what's going to get me going for this year. So I've picked Canadian nationals as a goal for later in the year, just to see how I stack up in a bigger field, you know, on an international level. So I'm gearing towards that. So this is really a gauge for me of where my fitness is at. I've been working on speed. I have more to build, but it's been going well. So it'll be interesting to sort of compare the different training styles, and we'll see what shakes out. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a national championship. You want to be out there and giving it your all. You want to make sure that whoever wins has got to work for it. They're going to really push. So if I don't win it, I will certainly, you know, applaud whoever does win and hope that we have a really good competition.
Now, Tyler, last year in another triathlon on local soil was a young man, Karen's son, Tyler, who gave you a go for a bit in the swim, hung around for the bike, and came behind you in the run. Is he still got his cast on?
He does.
Okay, so.
Just as a quick aside, he's getting the cast off on Monday, and I know this is sort of slightly off the Catlin race, but he has been training really hard. He's been on the bike trainer, which is this. You know, you can put your bike on, your road bike onto a stationary trainer and have a great workout. And then this morning he was running 400 repeats, really quick. So he's.
That was going to be my question to Tyler. Would you have loved to see the younger Tyler, to see his progress?
Yeah, definitely. I was really impressed with him last year. In the swim, he really pushed me. We had to sprint to fight out who came first out of the water, and I sort of wanted to. I'm not from a swimming background, and I've worked hard to improve it. So I sort of wanted to get out of the water first, and at one point I was like, is this really worth it? I'm going to get on the bike and be knackered. It's great to see the juniors coming through. I'm getting old. I know people laugh at that, but in my sport you can go till you're 40 as a professional, but from 30 to 40 you're going to transition to that Ironman distance generally, and I'm starting to do that. And it is great to see someone from Bermuda coming along that can make use of the doors that myself and Flora have already opened. Chris Hedges, Jonathan did a few more races than me as a junior internationally, and Elliot Hubbard really opened doors for myself and Flora as far as the endurance sport world for Bermuda. Even though Elliot and Chris were more cycling, it still just opens the door of, oh, we know an athlete that's from Bermuda, do you know this person? And it breaks the ice when you're traveling around the world, and someone just wants to make a conversation with you if they have a topic to talk about. And yeah, so I hope Tyler Smith comes through and really fulfills his potential. And in the end, it's truly up to him. From Bermuda, you get a lot of opportunities. Caribbean champs, Commonwealth Games, Pan American Games, ultimately the Olympics. The Olympics is harder than the other ones because we have to qualify our own spot for the country, and we have less athletes to do it. But from Bermuda, you have as an athlete, you have a lot of opportunity, and it's great to see the youth take advantage of that and grasp a hold of it. And so he's definitely on the right track. So hopefully with the cast off, he'll be back before you know it.